right, next on the agenda is actually the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Need a second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? 5-0. Hope you've had the opportunity to look over the minutes from our December meeting. Would you have any additions or corrections?
Make a motion, we accept them.
Have a motion to accept the minutes. And we have a second from Justin. All in favor? 5-0. All right, this time we will recognize our folks in accommodations.
It is always great to have a room full of smiling people at board meetings.
Yes, it
And
is.
a room full of students. And so we do have tonight some very special accomplishments to recognize. So as I call your name up, if you will come up and receive your certificate from Mr. Watt and stay at the front so we can take a picture. Tonight we're recognizing fall athletes who gained some type of all-state, all-star recognition, which is quite an accomplishment. And so we want to honor you for your individual accomplishments, but we also want to recognize that you worked hard as a part of a team and that our teams this fall had some great accomplishments too. And so to me, that's even greater than the individual, because you took your talents and you meshed those with the goals of a team. And so we honor you. We thank you for representing Crescent so well. I think anytime you put on a Crescent jersey, you should act a certain way, and you all do that. So we want to recognize you tonight. I think we're going to start with our female volleyball players. So these players, our first one, Raina Ritchie, South Carolina Coaches Association of Women's Sports, North-South All-Star. Good job. You followed the instructions. Okay. For 2024 3A All-State Volleyball, Annalisa McCall. And also for 2024 3A All-State Volleyball, Caroline Gray. All right, and Coach Bostic, and is any other coaches here with volleyball? Okay, Coach Bostic, if you will come up for the picture. Didn't know you were going to get called out, did you? Okay, at this time, we also have some football players to recognize, and I think it goes without saying, and Coach Evans, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time since 1990 that we made it to the third round of the playoffs. It's quite an accomplishment, so I congratulate you on that. At this time, Josiah Davis, South Carolina Football Coaches Association 2024 3A All-State player. He's playing basketball. Okay, that's where he needs to be tonight then. Okay, what about Isaac Hoskins, 2024 3A All-State football player? We have Darius Latimer, 2024 3A All-State selection. We have Trabari Lee, Trey, I think, really, 2024 3A All-State. Keontae Parks, did I say it right? Oh, good, good. 2024 3A All-State. And Jake Duncan, 2024 U.S. Army Bowl selection and 2024 Shrine Bowl of the Carolinas selection. Congratulations. Okay. Coach Evans, any of the other football coaches?
Picture later, see my mug.
We'll see, I know that she's young enough to Photoshop this out.
That's, maybe that too, that's right.
She's pretty good with that camera.
Get y'all to sign first, and then we'll.
Okay. All right.
All right. Josiah, just stay right here, Josiah. Well, actually, come to Mr. Watt. 2024 3A All-State. And let's take the picture again so we have everybody in it.
That's right. That's a good thing.
We also have another special presentation tonight, and so this is Board Appreciation Month, and so we want to recognize our board and thank them for the hard work that they do. Our board members are not paid, and they spend a lot of time taking care of the district, and sometimes it's a thankless job, but we appreciate you all and what you do. And I'll just read a little bit of the governor's proclamation, and then we'll ask them to come up and sign the ethics poster, and we'll take a picture. But according to our governor's proclamation, it says, whereas education is the foundation upon which the economic, intellectual, and social capital of our state is built, and whereas school boards directly influence instruction in South Carolina's public schools, and whereas local school board members work with parents, businesses, education professionals, and other community members to represent their views and create the ideal educational vision for their public schools and students. And whereas School Board Recognition Month highlights the unique role school boards play in representing their constituents by promoting and advocating for quality public education. Now, therefore, I, Henry McMaster, Governor of the great state of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim January 2025 as School Board Recognition Month. So I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Watt, our chairman, and Mr. Arnold, our secretary, and Mr. Balknight, Mr. Holbrook, and our newest board member, Mr. Burdette, for all that you do for our district. At this time, if you will grab the Sharpie and sign the ethics poster, we'll take a picture.
Am I the only one that's left-handed?
Looks like it. You only one in your right mind?
This time, I know that Dr. Estes signed up for citizens' comments, and I think she wanted to make a recognition to the board, so I'll ask you to come on up.
Hi, Tiffany Estes from AIT. I'm the executive director, and I have the pleasure of serving Crescent High School students at our facility. As Ms. Hipp and again, Chairman Watt and board members, thank you for letting me speak this evening. I'll be very brief. As Ms. Hipp said, our school boards, it is a thankless position. It's not a once a month meeting. They get together, lots of communication, lots of decisions, and they do it just because their heart is for our kids. So on behalf of AIT, thank you for everything that you do. We went into classrooms and we were showing students your pictures and explaining to them what you all do. It was very eye-opening. It was very fun. So I have packages of thank you notes written by our students for each of you. Again, we just want to thank you for all you do. You're very much appreciated. And thank you for your continued support of AIT. So, Holbrook.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Estes.
And
Thank you.
so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Estes. Thank you, parents and students, for coming tonight. You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you would like to not stay for the rest of the meeting, now would be an appropriate time to exit. So thank you so much for being here.
That's right.
Us all day.
Thank all y'all for coming.
Proud of you, bro. Proud of you.
Can't believe how tall she's gotten. Oh my gosh. That's unreal. Huh. I ain't got no fireplace no more. You know what? I ain't got a fireplace no more.
Something to them. I'm going to move this out of our way.
Yeah,
Is this gonna
that's
bother you?
fine. That's right. That's right. Matthew,
See ya.
I'm gonna let you introduce. I'm just gonna turn it to you. Great, hold up to the fire.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Good job, Caroline.
No, I do not have one of those. All right, Matthew, I'm gonna turn it over to you for our 23-24 audit.
Okay. Tonight we have with us Kim Martin, who's one of our lead auditors from Martin Smith and Company. They've been doing the audit for the district for some odd years now. I won't take anything away from him, but we'll turn it over to him now. We got some slides for him that he sent to you guys last week with some graphs and things like that. So we'll let you use that. So take it away, sir.
Good evening. I must confess, I walked in the room, and for a fleeting minute, I thought these folks heard that we're going to be talking about the audit, and they were so excited about it that this huge overflow crowd showed up, and then reality hit here as everyone's leaving. But I'm excited about the audit. But we did again this year perform a financial statement audit following generally accepted audit standards. We also performed a compliance audit of your federal funding following federal uniform guidance. Those standards, that guidance, direct us in all aspects of the audit, from our planning, then to the performance, and then to the reporting. But at the most basic, they require us to gather enough independent audit evidence that we can give an opinion as to the fairness of your financial statements. So the focus of our work, the focus of the audit, is on gathering audit evidence. We perform a variety of audit tests to gather a wide variety of audit evidence. As Matthew mentioned, we've worked with the district now for a number of years. We work with quite a few other districts, and so we've developed some fairly effective tests of your assets, liabilities, revenues, expenses, again, all with an eye toward gathering audit evidence. On some of those tests, particularly our detailed test of your revenue and our detailed test of expenses, we perform what are called dual purpose tests. The primary purpose is gathering audit evidence, but the secondary purpose is to test the district's internal control system. One of the key responsibilities of Matthew and his group is establishing a system of controls to protect your assets, and then communicating that system out district-wide, and then making sure folks are following that. So as part of the audit, a very important part of the audit, is we understand what your system is, and then we perform these dual-purpose tests to test it. I'm pleased to report to the board that, based on the work we did, first of all, we think you've got a strong system in place. Clearly, folks have thought through over the years what processes should be in place, and then they've communicated that out to the folks who should be involved in it. We feel like your system is strong, and then as we did many, many detailed tests, we didn't find any instances where those controls weren't being followed. So our report to the board on your controls is a positive one. A good system in place, and it's functioning as it should. That's an important hurdle to get over as we're performing the audit. We then moved to what I'd call fairly routine audit tests. Again, all focused on gathering evidence. Based on all the work that we did, I should give you some sense. We brought a team of 4 people here to the district and camped out in this room asking lots of questions, gathering lots of information. We also had one person working remotely. So we had a team of 5 that were working on the audit. So we get a lot of information. We ask tons of questions. We did gather enough evidence to form an opinion on your financials, and that is an unmodified opinion. It's the best opinion that we can give, basically saying that your financial statements do present fairly your financial position and then the results of the district's operations. Again, that used to be called a clean opinion, but it's the best that we can give you. I mentioned that we also test your federal compliance. This year, every year, we select some of your major programs. This year happened to be ESSER again, and then your special ed programs. And we perform detailed tests of those, making sure that you're complying in every aspect of those. For each of those programs, there's a compliance checklist. In the case of ESSER, it runs pages, but we have to test that. And if we find any instances where you're not complying with that, certainly we'd let the board know, but we also have to report that up to the appropriate federal agency. So I'm pleased to tell you that based on all the work we did, we found no instances of non-compliance. So again, our report on your federal compliance is an unmodified as one as well. Your financial statements, and you've got the package there, I think they run, well, about 100 pages, but as you have a chance to look at it, the very first thing you'll find in here is the independent auditor's report, unmodified opinion, and the very last thing is our report on federal compliance, unmodified opinion. So your financial statements are bookended by our audit reports, and they're positive audit reports. So again, I've been before you before, and I've noted that you've got an unmodified opinion. I know you expect that. However, we like to point out and emphasize that that doesn't just happen. It's the result of hard work, really day by day, really transaction by transaction. Matthew, his group, and really everyone that's involved at the district level doing what they're supposed to be doing that enables us to come in, do our work, and give a good report like this. We also like to give the board some sense of the quality of what's happening in your finance department, and we assess that in a number of ways. One of them is, I mentioned we gather audit evidence, and what we get, again, from Matthew and his group is high quality. As we get information, it's accurate, it's complete, it's timely, and then we're here and we ask lots of questions. There are cases where you ask a question in our audits, and someone says, let me get back to you, give me a couple weeks and I'll figure this out. That's not what happens here. As we ask a question, typically they know the answer right away. They're able to hand us the documentation we need. That gives us a sense that they know what's happening, they're keeping up with what's happening. Also, do we have to make a ton of adjusting entries to get your financials fairly presented? At this district, we do not. We really have no entries where we came in and there was something that needed to be corrected to get it properly recorded. There are a few reclassification entries that we make every year, but all in all, we had no entries where there was something wrong that we had to correct. Again, that tells us that what's happening as they initially record transactions is high quality. So we want the board to realize that not only is an unmodified opinion a good opinion, but the quality of what's happening here is very high. And I think that should give you some comfort as you rely on these folks to do their jobs and do their job accurately and very well. Any questions? I know I've just thrown a lot at you in terms of the process, but before I talk just a minute about the financial results, any questions about the audit process? I should have mentioned, of course, no internal control findings, no compliance findings, no issues with that at all. I know we're in January now, talking about a fiscal year that ended in June, so I'm not going to spend much time on what happened, the financial results, but as you can see on the chart there, if you can read that, revenues of about 44 million this year, which was up about 3% over the previous year. Notably, the federal revenue actually declined this year because some of those ESSER programs are rolling off. So federal revenue was down $2 million, but the increase in property taxes, increase in state funding made up for that, and our total revenue was up about $1.3 million for the year. Then on the expense side, we did a good job of controlling expenses. There on the left-hand side, expenses actually went up about the same amount as revenue did, about 1.3 million. And the bulk of that was payroll and related expenses. Our total payroll and related expenses went up about 6% this year. Salary expenses were actually a little less than that, but then retirement, insurance were both up about 10%. To a large extent, that's kind of outside our control, the district's control. But all in all, we feel like you did a good job of even as revenue increased, maintaining control over expenses. And then really the key one, the one on the right there, the change in your fund balance. What we look at is to be healthy, we like to see a pattern of living within our means and budgeting and then living with our means so that we're increasing general fund balance. And you can see that the history here is that we have done that. This year, we actually had a $350,000 decrease in general fund balance. However, a couple of things contributed to that. One, we moved about $1.5 million out of general fund over to the capital projects fund to support some of those projects. We also spent about $350,000 on capital items within the general fund. So about $1.8 million of funds that we use for capital projects, moving them out of the general fund. So absent that, we would have had, again, a healthy increase in the general fund balance. And where we are right now, we're at about, our general fund balance is about 26% of our annual expenses. To put that in some perspective, the state requires a minimum of 8.3%, and generally, the governmental finance officers say, well, it should be double that. So about 16% is what they say should be an absolute minimum. We're well above that, and as we work with school districts, we suggest that somewhere between 24, 32% is a good spot to be. So we think your district is there in the sweet spot. You've got a solid fund balance, not a. I don't think it's too high. I think it's a good, reasonable place to be, and gives you good financial stability going forward. So all in all, in terms of the financial results, that's a positive report as well. Any questions for me?
questions? You done too good a job, man. We appreciate you
Okay.
taking care of us. Good
Right.
job.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
All right, next will be our financial report by Matthew for the month.
All right, thank you, sir. So, starting off, we'll take a look at our general fund performance through the end of December. At the end of December, our expenditures exceeded our revenues by $1,601,010. As we'll see here, this should be, based on the trends in the years past, this should be our last month that we see a red figure with our expenditures exceeding our revenues. Now that property tax revenue is really starting to flow in, so we should start seeing a pretty significant uptick as we move forward. We are lagging behind a little bit compared to years prior, but looking at what has happened through December and starting on into January, I fully believe that's due to just some timing of some money coming in. To put some numbers with that, the first collection that we received in January has put our property taxes ahead of last year's property tax collections by $400,000. And then just this afternoon, at about 4:15, we got the allocation from the first 15 days of January, and that put us up an additional 290. So this time next month, we'll be looking at property taxes being ahead $690,000. So a lot of that timing is playing into that right now. So while you see there, we've been anywhere from 1.2 million in the hole as low as 550 to the negative at this point, and we're sitting at 1.6. Don't get concerned with that just yet, just because of the timing of those property tax revenues, the bulk of those coming in right now. And to go along with that, we're still getting those updated assessment reports as the books have opened for the new year, and those, at least 2 months in, are still holding. We haven't seen any major drop off. I do expect a little bit of trickle down, and that'll become more important as we head into budget season and what we can budget for as we look forward on what the value of a mill is operationally. But that seems to be holding so far, so I would anticipate some strong property tax collections just based on those 2 months of reports that we've seen so far. Just some things really to look forward. I mean, let me back up. The expenditures that we've seen from a percentage comparison standpoint are pretty much in line with what we'd expect to be. Of course, we've had the timing differences that we've talked about every month from this year to last year. So expenditures are where we want to be at this point in the year. As we move forward, some differences that we'll see is now that we've changed calendar year in January, we got our 11.1% health insurance premium increase taking effect. So that fringe benefits category, that second line, we'll probably start seeing a little bit faster increase there, and probably outpace last year's there at a little bit quicker rate, just because of that increase taking effect here in January. So that's really just something to look forward to as we move into the last 6 months of the fiscal year. And the last thing, I've kind of been teasing how the enrollment increase is going to affect us funding wise. On the state aid to classrooms being our largest allocations, I know it's really hard to see here. That's our first line there. That state aid to classrooms, the general fund, it comes in there, and also halfway down, it gets broken out how it's split out by the state. So, of course, our largest allocation, all depending on enrollment, we had enrollment increase from the 135th day to the 45th day of about 86 students or so, and of course, about a quarter of those being special ed students who receive additional weighting. So because of that, compared to the state growth, the projection that we received late last week from the State Department is that our allocation for state aid to classrooms should put us $757,000 above budget, just because of the enrollment increase. So that's the type of weight that a change in one student can do for you under this formula, because so much of the state funding has been rolled up into this one formula, one student is a whole lot more impactful back more than what it was when it was $2,500 base student cost. So increase in students really is going to have a big impact, and we should start seeing that updated allocation coming in this month in January. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as we move forward. And again, that little bit of a deficit we got right now, at least on paper, that's going to be an additional help, kind of make up some ground for us. Are there any general fund related questions at this point in the year? None? Okay. And again, I forgot I had this on there for you. So just to kind of illustrate the property tax difference, you can see from what we've received through December 31st, we're about neck and neck, $1,935,000 what we collected this year, and we were at $1,970,000 last year. But if this captures the first payment we received, and now you can see at $3,023,000 versus $2,631,000. That's just one allocation, how big of a swing we saw in those property tax collections. So just to kind of illustrate that for you. That's going to show up in our January financials, but since we had that information before the board meeting, I wanted to share that with you. All right. So moving on to the sales tax collection, we got that really late this month. I believe it was yesterday. It came in. But for the month of December, our allocation was $283,662.81, which makes up the third largest collection to date. And you can see we've had quite a many. So it's by far the largest collection we received in December, and if history is any indication, the next couple months should be at least in this ballpark, being related to the holiday spending there. So yeah, nice surprise we got here late this week. And just kind of for a comparison there, we're annualizing what we collected last year versus what we've collected this year, about a 2.2% increase countywide, 1.7 district-wide. So it continues to outpace projections, and it's continuing to do really, really well for us. So yeah, and then of course, 226,000 of that 283 is available for capital use, and then the 56,732 automatically goes to property tax relief. So it helps us on both ends, on the building side and helping keeping our debt service millage where we'd like it to be.
Yes.
Any questions on the sales tax?
Yeah, that's really good.
That's good. I had one other thing. It's really not worth. It's nothing to show you. Just kind of want to put in front of you the budget calendar. I know it's crazy to think we're already at approaching budget season, but we do have some things going on here starting this month, budget related. We got some meetings scheduled with our principals in the last week of January. So we're getting in that season. But we'll have that going on. That we'll discuss a lot of staffing with them, just so that we can get ahead of that hiring season as much as we can, and kind of make sure we're on the same page when it comes to that, and as well as all the other things we discuss as we head into budget, making sure that we're getting them what they need. So that's really more for information, but I just wanted to put that in front of you. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we got an IT update with Miss Amy Gray.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay. PowerSchool, you may know, is our student information system. It's the authoritative source for all student information, including demographics, medical information, some medical information, discipline records, and grades. And it also holds limited staff information. It's provided to us by the state, and the data is housed at the state on servers owned by the state. Over Christmas break, they had the biggest data breach affecting schools in history. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of what happened and how our school district responded, how we were affected, and next steps in the process. So first, credentials belonging to a PowerSchool employee were leaked on the dark web, and on December 19th, they're used to access a support portal that had access to almost every hosted school district in the U.S. and Canada. They were able to spend some time in the system during that time to write a script to extract student and staff data. And on December 22nd, they ran the script and exfiltrated student and staff tables from almost all of their 180,000 customers. It spans pretty much 75% of all K-12 schools in North America. Power School was notified of the breach on December 28th and engaged with CrowdStrike to investigate and to help mitigate. And they also engaged with another third-party company that negotiated with the threat actor in Ukraine to delete the data. They paid a ransom and they received a video of the hacker deleting all the information. So they've given us some reasonable assurances that they're confident that this was the only copy of the data, but it's a reasonable assurance. On the afternoon of January 7th, they sent several emails to all school districts, but several to Anderson 3 as well, notifying us of the breach. And all the emails, except for one, stated that there was a breach, but that our school district was not affected. However, Missy Rice received a different email that stated we were part of the breach. So on January 8th, after some investigation that morning, Missy and I learned that the school district was in fact affected. So I began an investigation to pull logs showing who was affected and what data was stolen, and I notified Ms. Hipp about the breach at that time. At 3 p.m., a Power School webinar was offered to provide more information, and they were very transparent. They were honest about how it happened and what happened. They answered questions from everybody that was on the call. It was unusual how open and transparent they were. We had previously developed, as a school district, a data breach policy that's in line with state and federal requirements. So we followed our policy to notify SLED after determining the scope of the breach. And then we met with other Anderson IT directors that afternoon to kind of go through a unified message that we wanted to share. On January 9th, I attended a state webinar with our state superintendent of education, Ellen Weaver, our state CIO, and Power School officials to get more guidance on how South Carolina specifically was affected and how we should respond. Dylan, Ms. Hipp, and I coordinated on a message to send to parents, and then Dylan sent the message via email and posted it on our website. And I don't think, it did not go out via text, did it? Just email. Mr. Moore also contacted our cyber insurance policy company, Skizbit, to ensure that we were meeting requirements and to inquire about anything else they needed from us. They did ask for some data. We provided that data to them. On January 13th, Missy Rice and I provided an update to Ms. Hipp, and then I had a meeting with the Anderson Oconee Pickens schools and the Power School CIO, Mishka I can't remember his last name. McCowan. He was on the call just for our schools, again, very open and transparent. All right, some things that Power School implemented includes resetting the credentials used to access their back-end systems, and they put them behind a VPN that is accessed via multi-factor authentication. And they also removed automatic access to all the schools and switched to a manual approval model. I already mentioned about deleting the data, but they also hired CrowdStrike to monitor the dark web for any leaked data. And as a district, we have confirmed that Power School support access is turned off so that they can no longer access us anytime they want, and that our passwords are secure. We also implemented a new yearly process to delete medical and guardian information from graduated and transferred out students so that even if somebody does gain access again, they won't get excess information that we don't need anymore as a district. We also had previously worked with SLED to get dark web monitoring set up, so we'll continue to work with them on that. And in the future, Power School's promised an official report of the breach by tomorrow that CrowdStrike is preparing for them. They also have agreed to provide credit monitoring to affected families where appropriate. I don't anticipate that it would be appropriate in our circumstance. I think a lot of school districts maybe house Social Security numbers, from what I've heard. It would be appropriate in those situations. But we are open to that. If they offer it, we will definitely take them up on that. We have also asked Power School to provide formal communication, probably via mail, to every person affected by the Anderson 3 breach. And they've alluded to the notion that they'll do that, but we're awaiting more communication from them. Y'all have any questions?
Prior to this event, there was no multi-factor authentication used by Power School?
Their system does not support it. And that's what they told us on Mishka when I talked to him. I asked that question. Said they still don't support it. But they have now put it behind a VPN, so anybody that works for them that needs to access the site will have to use a VPN to get in.
Credentials that were leaked must have been from someone with lots of access.
And it was a third-party contractor, so it surprises me that they had so much access, but they did.
Were the other neighboring districts impacted by this, or were they notified?
They were, every district in South Carolina, from what I've heard, has been impacted except for Greenville County. I think Greenville County is self-hosted. They're not hosted with the state, because they have a whole team of people that do Power School for them. So, pretty much everybody else in South Carolina was affected.
So did
Public K-12.
you received an email saying that that we had not been affected by it?
So I
I
inquired
got
about,
the same email from Anderson 5 saying not affected by it, so that email's fictitious.
well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of complaints about that, and what we have found out is that they have different contacts for different Power School products. And I was the contact for Power School enrollment, and I think Beth Black was the contact for Naviance, and there's multiple Power School products. No other Power School product was affected. So we got notification for the things that we are their contact for, but Missy is our only district contact for Power School SIS, so she received notification that we were. They didn't say that in the email. I mean, like you said, I got an email stating there was a breach and that we were not affected, so it was very confusing for a lot of people, but they, on that first webinar, they did clear that up.
Do we know what kind of data that they have? I mean, is the student social security numbers, staff social security numbers?
We do know what kind of data, and it's the same data for every school district. The hacker wrote a script that went in and would download the student table and the staff table, which are the same variables throughout the North America at least. So if the field was populated, they got it. We do not house social security numbers. So, staff information, we don't house a lot of staff information. They did get names, phone numbers, addresses, where we had them. That's about what they got from our staff. The student data was mostly demographic.
Medicaid numbers?
No,
Medicaid numbers.
no. But we will be deleting those just in case somebody gets in and writes a different script. We'll be deleting those for all graduated students and transferred out students.
And I just want to reiterate, we took social security numbers out about 10 years ago.
It's about 7.5, yeah.
And so there are some districts who social security numbers were affected, but Anderson 3 did not have social security numbers affected. So that's the main thing I want to make sure you leave here knowing.
So there was none in there.
Right.
That's good. Not for staff or.
They say why it took 10 days to notify?
Their answer was that they were doing their own investigation. And they still, they're still working on some things. I think a lot of people are frustrated that there's not a communication package yet, because we need, and we did let our families know in an appropriate manner, we think. But we want Power School to communicate directly with every person that was affected. So we are waiting on that.
I want to make sure I understand. So when you say, when they communicate with every person that was affected, so the individuals, so it won't just be a blanket statement. If somebody's specific information was obtained, they would have a correspondence with that person.
That's what we're asking for Power School to do.
Do we know who those folks are that
We
was
do.
impacted? If they don't, are we as a district going to?
We are gonna discuss that. We have met our state and federal requirements, for, data breaches that affect students with personally identifiable information that's been released with what we have currently done. I think our data breach, policy categorizes different types of breaches. There's low, moderate, and high. A high breach is, something that would cause grave danger or embarrassment, and we don't classify this breach as that, for three different reasons. One is that the type of information they received is not, there's no social security numbers, so, and not a lot of medical information. It was mostly demographic information. Two, the ransom was paid. We have reasonable assurance that the hacker did delete the data. They sent a video showing it was a Linux command they ran that deleted all of the data. Really, this sounds weird, but hackers, it's a business, and so they rely on their reputation. If we paid the ransom and they said they delete the data and they didn't delete the data and leaked it, the next person won't pay the ransom. And they know that. So generally, they're true to their word because it is a business. So we feel like they probably have deleted our data. And third, if they have not, CrowdStrike is monitoring the dark web for that information, and SLED is monitoring the dark web for that information. So I think we'll be notified. Now, I think if we were notified that that information has been leaked on the dark web, we would probably have a different conversation about how much notification we would need to give to each individual personally.
And just let me clarify, when Amy says we paid the ransom, she's not talking about we.
No, that's correct.
That's Power School nationwide.
Our school paid the ransom, and they have not told us how much they paid for it, but I'm assuming it's a lot. Yeah.
Where are the servers for Power School? Are they located in-state, out-of-state, overseas?
They're all over the place. There are some overseas, which is, because one of the questions we asked is why was there not an IP geolocation restriction? How did you let somebody from Ukraine, an IP address from Ukraine, get into your system? But they have servers all over the world hosting this data.
And are we required by state to use Power School, or can we do like Greenville County and do basically our own thing?
So Greenville County does use Power School, I believe. They just don't have it hosted by the state.
So it's on their personal server?
It's on their personal servers.
It could be hacked too, but.
Yeah. The thought is we thought it could be hacked easier on a personal server than on something secured by the state of South Carolina,
It
and,
can be hacked, or somebody can do it.
yeah,
Somebody built it, they can hack it.
yeah.
If they've got the credentials to get in it.
Yes, and so they had credentials to get into the back end, and from the back end, they were able to access everybody's instance because there was a portal open for support. That portal has now been shut off. They can no longer remote into our instance, so that's shut off
That'd be
now.
good.
So hopefully, if they get in, they still wouldn't be able to get to our stuff, but,
Even our firewalls won't keep them out.
well, since they're not coming into our network, since the data is hosted on a server that's not on our network, we don't have control over it.
Control of it.
And I'm assuming that's how Greenville County, they probably had the support portal open, but since it's hosted on their network, they probably have IP address geolocation. We don't let anything from Ukraine, China, any of the embargoed countries get into our network. And I would assume Greenville County doesn't either, which is why they couldn't get in to get their data.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
come to this.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, engage third party to pay for threat actor to delete customer data. So I'm assuming this entire event was just for the ransom? Okay, so if that's the case, I got notification from the insurance trust also, an email about it, and since we have involved the insurance trust, Power School has paid that. Are they gonna try to recoup some of their money through the trust, which in my opinion is some of our money also? what are they
My
doing there?
understanding is no. We contacted our cyber insurance based on the call with, Ellen Weaver on the, 9th. We talked to the state CIO and the question was asked, should we contact our cyber insurance? And he said it would not hurt. So we did, just to be on the safe side. Now Matthew talked to Skizbit and I don't think that they,
They have opened up a claim to cover all of their districts that they cover in the state. So like we are included in that claim and have contacted the, cyber insurance carrier. So I don't know the steps they've taken, but they have already started that process and just told us to be gathering information and holding it in the event that it becomes necessary.
It's like good night, everybody wants money.
it's a lucrative business.
Yes.
Y'all have any other questions?
Anybody?
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Flat Rock, I'm probably the best person in the world.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm gonna talk about much better things than that.
You ain't gonna talk about nothing dark, are you?
No, there is no dark.
Good.
No,
We want cheerful stuff.
this will be much better, I promise. Do I just need to go forward? Yeah. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. First, I would like to thank all of my people back there who have come to support our school tonight. I think it speaks volumes when they've been at school all day on the 100th day of school, that they have come to support our school tonight, and I certainly appreciate that. I wanted to start, I'm going the wrong way. I wanted to start with this picture first, just as a reminder that at Flat Rock, our vision is that we are committed to excellence, and we don't keep that a secret. Our children can talk to you about it. And our mission is to love, nurture, and educate all of the students at Flat Rock Elementary School to the best of our ability. And we put that picture in because Flat Rock is a family. That's my family. That's our family. And we've lost a member of our family, and she's in that picture. And so we didn't want to go unnoted that had occurred and how much we're gonna love and miss her. But we really love each other, and I think you can see that in that sweet picture. Okay, I didn't want you to be left out today, so this is much better than the dark web. Today was the 100th day of school, and we took a little bit different spin on it. We have 80 more days of school after today. And some of them, I think, stayed dressed and the crimping irons came out. But I was not showing up like that to make my presentation tonight. But to be fair, since some of them are still dressed in headbands, and I was able to decrimp my hair today, I wanted you to see that. So I do want you to know that was a fun time today at Flat Rock with all of our students and everybody dressing up. And part of my outfit actually came out of my closet, and it was like for real one time, so. In Anderson 3, we have a real sense of community, and I'm certainly not gonna read these one by one to you. This isn't even a complete list of the community things that we do in our school. But, when I was looking back over, I'm very proud of that list. I'm very proud of what we do, because we're doing a good job of promoting student achievement through those activities, improving student attendance, literacy, the health and wellness of our school community, parent involvement, and community involvement. And I wanted to highlight just a few of those. We have a second-year music teacher, and so we have reintroduced honors choir back into 4th and 5th grade. Also, we didn't like the direction that our prime instructional time was going on our school report card, and so we have our Flamazing Attendance Initiative, and you'd be surprised how excited people get about those little ducks that look like flamingos, but whatever works, right? We've also introduced behavior block parties, and we're doing behavior a little differently, and in that, we're working with Lee Burton, and the Behavior Alliance of South Carolina to really look at the culture of our school. To begin with, I thought, okay, well, we're looking at behavior, but it's not really just behavior. We're looking at an overall culture of behavior in our school. And I think in the next several years, as we continue to work with that, I think you're going to see that make great changes. We've already seen huge changes in the behavior and the culture of the students in our building through a lot of this work. And then worth noting that there is a marathon club now, and I am trying my best to participate, but we'll see what happens with that. Okay, just a few, yes, sir.
What is the Lemonade Wars?
So there's a series of books. The very first book is Lemonade Wars. And so every year during testing, we buy that novel and we read it as a third, fourth, and fifth grade. And they get to read the sequels in the subsequent years. And then each class makes an original flavor of lemonade, and we have Lemonade Wars, and we vote on best lemonade.
That's great.
Yeah, it's fun. So we are. I'll invite you. We are doing our part to help increase student numbers. The total population at Flat Rock today was 422. If you look at our enrollment numbers, that's not going to, I just want you to know that's not going to match, because we have students who are on our enrollment that actually attend school at Star and Iva because of special programs. And we also have children in our building that are zoned for other places because of special programs. But physically in our building, we do have 422 students. I wanted you to see that we have had an increase from 30 to 35 students in our MLL population. That does not include K-4 students. That number would be even higher if we included them. I also wanted you to see that our SPED resource population has increased. Last year it was 39, this year it's 57. And then there's just a breakdown of how we serve those children in our school. Currently, the state is reporting our poverty index is 85.6%, which makes us 4th of all elementary schools in Anderson County and 5th of all schools in Anderson County. But that is not an excuse at Flat Rock Elementary School. We are trying to get the point across with our students that it is definitely not where you start, it's where you finish the race, and we're never going to use poverty as an excuse for anything in our building. But I do want you to realize what we are working, what our environment is down there, and we are very proud of it. And then there were just a few pictures, there we go. Just a few pictures of some of the events that we've had this year. You can see our reading buddies. I would like to call attention to number 8. That was during the hurricane, and you can see teachers and our resource officer there. We had people that when we opened our building, they came and stayed all day so that they would have a good, safe place to go with some electricity. And that was actually, as hard as that time was, that was a special time in our school for us. And then we get to our data. We are very proud to have an excellent school. That artwork is done by our art teacher, Emily Grant. And we were very fortunate and thankful to return to that category this year. So let's look at a little bit of the data. So in academic achievement, our state's looking at, in the SE Ready, we looked at ELA and math. This year, they did not report science scores, so that's not here. But I did want you to look that in our meets and exceeds expectation, that total is 66.7%, and that is an increase from the prior year of a little over 2 points. And then with SC Ready Math, the exceeds and meets total was 56.3%, and that was a loss from the year before of about 2 points. And then in this next one, which is it's just difficult to understand the progress, but we look at progress made by individual students from one year to the next. And I just wanted to call attention to a couple of those subgroups because I was very proud of that. Our African American population, 72.3% of those students hit the target and earned their progress points. And if you look down, our disabled population, 72.8 of those students also earned those progress points. And I want you to know that is due to some intentional resource programming in our building and also intentional intervention, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But these numbers look pretty good, and I'm very proud of the progress that we are making with our students. Of course, when you look at those formulas, the state does focus on the bottom 20%, and at Flat Rock, 61.7% of our lowest performing 20 students hit those progress targets. Guys, that was an increase from the year before from 45.7%. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought we were gonna get that good hit last year. And when we got it again this year, I was blown out of the water, because to do that 2 years, to be able to make movement like that with your bottom 20% 2 years in a row is amazing. And it's through a lot of hard work. And in those pictures, you see a lot of small group instruction, and that's how we're doing it. We had set a goal, yes, sir.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. On the bottom 20, just looking at that right there, you know, I see 1 on 3, 1 on 4. Is that prime instructional time when you do this type setup? What I'm getting at, the question I'm trying to get to, is it ever like 1-on-1? Does 1-on-1 help more than 1 on 3 or 1 on 30?
It depends on the student.
You see what I'm saying,
It
right?
depends
That's
on
my
the
question. Am I
student.
asking that right?
You are.
So when I think about the bottom 20 and I see that, I understand that takes time and effort. Every day, every hour, every minute.
We're also doing it with the top 20% too.
Okay.
I have a slide. I'm gonna explain it to you a little bit more, because that is important.
Okay.
Last year, one of our goals was to increase our school climate, and it had been average the year before, and we've moved, it was good the year before, and we've moved that to excellent this year, and that was an increase from 7.94 to 8.69. And just be honest, I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. The culture in our building is outstanding. We have good people. And then these slides, these next two are repeats from last year with the new information, just showing you a history of our report card ratings, how, before COVID, we were a below average school, and we've moved to excellent. That good last year was by 1 point. We missed excellent by 1 point, and we've moved back to excellent, and we expect to stay there. And then these are the subcategories just for us, and you can see where we've been and highlighted the excellence. So on this past one, this last year, school climate, and then our overall rating was excellent again. Tripp, I think this will answer your question a little bit better. This is one thing I do want to tell you about. This is the 3rd year that we have instituted Shine in our building, and you can see that it means students having intervention needs met and enrichment, because it's really easy to focus on that bottom 20% and kind of put those kids that always get it and the ones that go over and beyond. It's really easy, because those kids are just going to get it. Put them, out of your mind. And we just made a commitment 3 years ago we weren't going to do that. And so the way we do this, now, every teacher in our building uses small group instruction, but we use an old-fashioned I do, we do, you do method. I do is direct instruction, that's class instruction. We do is modeling with students, making sure they understand it before we release them to work independently. And we've tried to move a focus to independent work and hold children accountable for their work. Somebody else not doing it for them, they're doing it themselves. That's how we've been able to make these increases. First thing in the morning from 8 to 8:30 and 8:30 to 9 o'clock, we run this program. For 30 minutes, Every child in our building is receiving some sort of small group instruction. It takes everybody in the building. All of my related arts teachers, art, music, PE, library, everybody. Doesn't matter what you teach. Coach, tell them you can teach reading, can't you?
That's right, Coach King.
Coach can teach phonics with anybody in the gym. And so we dedicated that first part of the day because we knew that was the best we were going to get. And we do intentional intervention with every child in our building based on multiple data points. What makes this work at Flat Rock? 30 minutes is not a lot of time. You got to get in, you got to get it done, you got to do it right, and you got to get out so that we're not wasting time. My admin team is amazing. They gather materials, they analyze data, so that what you watch them when I say this because they're going to agree with me. We hand it to them so that all they have to do is teach it. They're not caught up in the weeds of, well, what worksheet should I use? What book should I use? It's already done for them. And so we're very intentional about the specific curriculums that we use for that Tier 2 intervention. And we get in and we get out and we do it, and it is an incredible model. This is the third year, and this year it's kindergarten. We started with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Last year we added 1st and 2nd grade, and this year we brought kindergarten into that. So now everybody but K4 gets that type of intervention every single day. Did that answer your question?
It does. Kind of formulate my thought here. Hold on a minute. It's just a lot of moving parts. I don't see how y'all do it sometimes. So I understand why the state added that to the report card, the bottom 20, why they wanted to add that. But we don't want to leave anybody behind.
That is correct.
I get that. I understand. So when you have 422 kids in the building and a staff like this, I am blown away when I see these photos of how y'all pull that off.
Y'all sleep well at night, don't you?
I see these photos, I hear everything you're saying, but my mind goes to that building during the day when there's kids everywhere, and it's like, how do y'all do that? And we have these bumps and all these numbers, and it blows me away.
The honest answer is, it's not easy.
I know, I get it.
But
I
it's
totally
well worth
understand.
it. That's why we do it.
That's why when I see the 1-on-3, the 1-on-5, the 1-on-30, I said earlier, how do you, with 422 kids, do you do a 1-on-1?
Schedule very carefully.
Yes, how do you do a 1-on-3? That's just,
Schedule very
it's
carefully.
unbelievable. And my hat's off to y'all, the job that you do with our kids here. I'm blown away when I sit here and look at this, and I'm so proud.
Thank you.
Yep.
We are too.
Yep.
We are too.
I get it, I understand.
We are
I don't
too.
want to keep rattling.
That's okay. That's okay. So we do continue to look at what we believe our strengths are. And when I look at all of the things that we consider strengths, at the end of the day, our greatest strength in our building is our family. Those aren't just words. You walk in my building and you will feel it. And because we work as a family, our students are going to succeed. They are loved and they work for us, and it just works. And those areas of opportunity are the same areas of opportunity that we had last year, and they're going to stay there because you can't do something and succeed 1 year and call it a day. We have to keep working, and we're never satisfied. So we're going to keep working because we're never going to be satisfied. And then I did want to go back and just say thank you again for the commitment that you've made to our district for letters. I'm going to give you a very concrete example. We had our spelling bee today, and it went forever. I mean, it went forever. Like, I thought it was never going to be over. When you start using science-based instruction on how to teach people how to read, specifically phonics and the return to believing that spelling is important and spelling rules. Your spelling bee goes on forever. It went on forever today. That's just a concrete example, but I was blown away by first the students who won for their classrooms, and then how far they were able to take it and how dedicated they were to preparing for it. So I did, on behalf of our school, want to tell you thank you for the support that you've given us, and the means to be able to do this training, because this has been one of the biggest difference makers I've seen in 34 years of teaching, period. Because everything feeds off of it. So, thank you. And we have had some achievements. We are a Palmetto Silver School. Coach Johnson was recognized by the State Department earlier this year. We do continue to be recognized every year with the Wellness Award. And then we are very, very proud of the work that our school is doing with our district beta club. And that is about 480 of the most precious people on the face of the planet to me right there. Any questions for us? Feel free to always come visit. We'll show you what we're doing. We love it.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. Just want to thank y'all, all of you. I know that an excellent rating, that's not just something that happens, and especially, you know, the poverty rate, and it's one of the few in South, you know, in the state. So thank y'all. I've been fortunate enough for my child to have several of you as teachers in the room. So thank y'all for what you did. It doesn't go unnoticed. I know it took a lot of hard work. It's not just a rating, and they perform for y'all because they know that you love them. And so thank y'all.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I think you're doing an excellent job. It's thankless sometimes, especially when you're working with kids. I got two that's grown now, and cause some of the encouragement that they've got from a lot of y'all, and especially Christy. She still tells me every time she calls my grown kids her babies, so I believe it. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. All right. We ready to go?
Yep.
To some-
We have a few action items here. The first one is just a list of local board course approved for Crescent High School. This list has not changed since last year, but it does have to be approved every year.
All right. Anybody got any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Balknight made a motion. A second from Mr. Holbrook. Any further discussion on this? If not, all in favor? 5-0. Okay.
And then the board meeting policy where we asked the lawyer to add the verbiage about the invocation, that was sent to the committee, so I will bring that over to the committee for a recommendation or feedback.
The policy committee recommends as presented.
And is this, we're gonna take this as second reading?
This would be the first reading.
First reading on this.
Yeah, it could be approved in one reading if you want to, or we can do it second. The only thing that changed in this policy is really the addition of the highlighted area. And that comes straight from the law, more or less, of,
Okay with y'all from the committee? Or we'll just take that as a form of a motion, from recommendation from the committee.
Just want to have discussion on it.
We need a second. Let's get a second on it and then we'll discuss it. Get a second, okay.
I noticed tonight that you said the prayer, Ms. Hipp. Will that be the board members? Will we continue doing that with the board members like we've done before?
yes.
It just says down here that it'll be in alphabetical order or some type of rotation.
The chairman and I talked about it. He asked me to do it tonight until we had passed this part of the policy.
I wondered if that's what it was. And
Yes.
so it'll still be all the board members,
Yes,
just
yeah,
like
we
in a
ju-
rotation.
We just we wanted to make sure we was in compliance prior to passing this, so.
I thought it was a compliance thing. I just wanted to point out that, so.
Yep. All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor? 5-0.
And then, Mr. Moore has, a item about per diem rates.
Yes, so with the turn of the calendar year, the federal government has released the updated per diem rates. So currently, our reimbursements are at the top of the page, $9 for breakfast, $11 for lunch, $19 for dinner, and mileage gets reimbursed at 61.5 cents per mile. The updated rates for 2025 increases those for $11 for breakfast, $13 for lunch, $22 for dinner, and 66 cents per mile for mileage. And so we're recommending increasing these amounts, and because these are these are the federal limits, this ensures that we're in compliance for all sources of funds, with federal funds typically being the most strict with guidance. So this falls within those guidelines, and we're asking for these changes to take effect for travel on or after January 1st, 2025, to align with the guidance that the IRS has provided. And I have at the bottom just the estimated budget impact of $2,500 annually is about what this increase would cost us.
Make a motion that we accept this.
Have a motion, need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burdette. Any further discussion on this? I know you better not try to eat at Five Guys for $11. You can't do it. You can't do it.
You get the double now.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. It's 5-0. I ain't kidding you. All right. Have to go back to Culver's, that's right. Yeah, my grandbaby's favorite place. All right, we need to enter an executive session for personnel matters and some contractual matters, so I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to enter an executive session.
Have a motion, there's a second.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0. Thank you all for all you do.
Thank y'all. Great presentation.
Yep.